Hi everyone, my name's Rym and I am the author of this novel, Dark River. It's my debut novel and it's out now from Unsung Stories. It was published in February, which seems like a very, very long time ago now. But now I'm just going to read a little bit from the novel and talk a little bit about what I've been reading recently. Dark River is a story about two women who live 8,000 years apart. One lives in sort of Mesolithic Doggerland and the other lives in the near future UK. And they're both struggling with all of their community is struggling with the effects of climate change. One man-made, one not. And they both have to get their families to safety somehow. So I'm going to read a little bit from the beginning of the novel now. It's a day when the river smells like the ocean. The musk of the deeper silt drifts to the surface where it pools and eddies along with the tides, mixing with the tang of salty air from downstream. It smells like promise, like moving on, like things growing elsewhere. It makes Shay's feet itch to follow the river to its mouth, to see the place where the blues of the sea and the sky meet. The water is high again, higher than Shay has ever seen it. The swollen river laps at the trunk of a willow, making a skirt around its roots. The water is flowing quickly upstream, faster than she could run. Since she's been sitting here, the sun has moved behind her, and the water has crept further towards her feet. It's coming from the ocean. It's been coming from the ocean for days now. A scatter of stones makes her turn. She sees her son gather a fistful of poplar down and splay his fingers to let it drift back to the ground. "Look! Ma! It's like the snow!" he yells at her, and she smiles back at him, makes a sound as though she's impressed. He crouches to gather the down again and rolls it into balls of fluff between the pads of his fingers. Then he presses it, watching it give under pressure. He's becoming fascinated with what his hands can do. He spends hours placing both his hands solemnly into the mud, the way he used to place them on her ribs as he suckled. Then he turns his palms to face him, peering at what he finds there. He picks at the grains of sand, makes patterns in the dust, pushes the earth towards the creases. He likes it best when the dirt is wet. Then he can drag one forefinger across the other palm and see through to the pink skin beneath. The air is humid. There is a thin coating of sweat on her back, like the water is stuck to her from the air rather than bubbling up from beneath her skin. Midges dance in a shaft of light between two hawthorns, and Shay watches them. They are the only creatures she's seen who don't seem to be infected by the heaviness of despair for the river. There are no water birds, not anymore. They have deserted this place. There is a hollow in her ears where the splashes of divers and herons should be. Also in the novel is the Strand Seth in the near future, and this is the beginning of that part of the story. It's a day when the river smells like petrol, sharp in the back of her throat, like she's just been sick. It smells like rubbish too. Walking along it is like walking behind the bin lorry on collection days, trying not to breathe until she can overtake it on the pavement. It doesn't always smell like this, she knows. Sometimes it smells like trees and the other tangled green things growing along its banks. At other times it smells damp, the pavement releasing tiny water droplets into the air after rain. And occasionally it smells like the sea, heaving in the east, lurking there at the borders of her city. She can see the petrol too, if she leans out over the railings and peers into the water. It's a slick, dirty rainbow, splayed in this eddy, dammed in by scratched bottles and a torn sock. There's other abandoned junk in the river, gently bumping against the concrete bank with every pulse of the tide. Bottle caps in every primary colour. A blue plastic bag. A cotton bud, its puffy ends black with whatever stains the bank. The water's almost completely still and stagnant in this concreted inlet, but out in the river the tide is high, the flood tide flowing westward towards the white columned houses of centuries gone by. The river is still and black here, but where it is flowing it's grey, its particles of silt lying just below the water, visible in clouds, where there are shafts of light from the bus boats. She likes to walk by the river. She likes to listen to the pumps as they work, rhythmically sucking and hissing as they draw the water out of the river and away to the water plant. She passes an abandoned patch of scrub with green leaves spurting wildly from the dirt. If Locke were here, he'd want to know what the green leaves were called. She'd invent some names for the plants, putting them together, the strangest collection of sounds she could think of, and with a perfectly straight face, until he'd say, "Mum, you're being silly." And he would turn away from her to examine the green leaves again, and he would not be sure if she really knew the names of the plants or not. But Locke is at home, probably asleep by now. Granya's looking after him tonight, giving him the dinner of pasta and tomato sauce she left out, bathing him, reading him his favourite story about the robot lost on the moon, and drawing the sheet over him as his eyes flutter with tiredness. So during this lockdown, I've been reading a lot, and this is the big book I've been making my way through, probably like lots of people across the world right now. I have finished it, and I passed it on to my husband to read, and it's a library copy. I hadn't quite finished it by the time that the library's shut, so I do feel really sorry for the people out there on the waiting list. Sorry. It's fantastic. What else can I say? You just need to get to the end, and there we go. She's a master of this art. This is a book that I have recently reread, and it's just one of my all-time favourites by one of my all-time favourite authors. This is Fire and Hemlock by Diana Wynne Jones. It's a kind of retelling of the Tamlin folk tale from Scotland, I think it's from, and it's just wonderful. She was one of my favourite authors as a kid and as a young adult. This is more of a kind of young adult book, and I just love it, and I love everything that she's ever done, really. And I have a small 11-week-old daughter, so this is a book that I've been reading a lot of during the lockdown. My daughter loves this book. She has a little wriggle and she kicks her legs whenever we get it out, and she loves looking at the pictures, she loves the rhymes, and I can't wait until she starts liking all the other books too that we can read together. Well, thanks very much everyone. See you soon. Bye.